You ever been down at a harbor or seen a picture of a massive container ship and wondered, why are they all painted red on the bottom? I mean, it's a super specific look. Well, you're not alone, and let me tell you, the answer is way more interesting than just a style choice. It seems kind of strange, right? For a part of the ship that's almost always underwater, but the reason isn't about looks at all. It's this fascinating story of tradition, some clever chemistry, and a centuries-long nonstop battle against the ocean itself. Okay, so before we can even get to the color red, we first have to understand the huge problem that this paint is designed to solve. And that problem has a name: biofouling. So what is biofouling? Basically, it's all the gunk that grows on the bottom of a ship. And I mean everything, from a thin layer of slime to thick mats of seaweed, barnacles, even little corals. On a really big ship, all these unwanted hitchhikers can add up to, get this, 10 tons of extra weight. And this is where the problem gets absolutely staggering. Just look at these numbers. Even a thin layer of slime that's just microfouling can increase the ship's drag through the water by up to 25%. Once you get to the hard stuff, the barnacles and tube worms, that drag can jump by over 80%. That means the engines have to work way, way harder just to push the ship forward. So what does all that extra work cost? Well, this number says it all. $36 billion. That's the estimated cost every single year just for the U.S. shipping industry, in extra fuel burned to overcome the drag from biofouling. It's a mind-blowing amount of waste, and you know that cost gets passed on to us in the price of pretty much everything. And the cost isn't just financial. As you can see here, more drag means more fuel burned, and that translates directly into a massive increase in greenhouse gas emissions. But there's another hidden danger too. Biofouling is one of the main ways that invasive species catch a ride across the ocean, getting into new ecosystems where they can cause all sorts of havoc. Now, you might be thinking this sounds like a modern problem for our big modern ships, but honestly, sailors have been fighting this exact battle for thousands of years. This is basically a timeline of an arms race against nature. In ancient times, you'd just have to physically scrape the gunk off or maybe smear the hull with animal fat. A little later, around 700 BC, the Greeks and Romans started nailing lead plates to their ships. But the real game changer came in the 1700s, when the British Royal Navy started using copper sheets. Turns out, copper is naturally toxic to marine life, and that idea is the direct ancestor of the paint we see today. So, copper sheathing was amazing on wooden ships. It worked like a charm, but it had one fatal flaw: when ships themselves started to change in a big way during the 19th century. You see, we stopped building ships out of wood and started using iron and steel, and that created a huge problem. If you put two different metals, like copper and iron, together in salt water, you basically create a battery. This effect, called galvanic corrosion, would literally eat away at the iron hull, destroying the ship from the bottom up. So a new solution was needed. One that could give you the power of copper without having the metal actually touch the hull. And here it is. This is the answer. The iconic red color we see today was born from pure practical necessity. The new anti-fouling paints used a copper compound called cuprous oxide as the active ingredient, the biocide. And guess what color it is? Naturally reddish-brown. On top of that, the cheapest and toughest filler pigment they could find back then was something called Venetian red, which is just rust, basically. So the poison was red, and the filler paint was red. And just like that, a tradition was born. All right, so fast forward to the 20th century. Chemists got even better at this, and they developed even more powerful paints to stop fouling. But this incredible leap in technology came with a really, really severe environmental price tag. A new chemical called tributyl tin, or TBT, was invented, and it was a miracle worker. It kept hulls perfectly clean. The problem? It was an ecological nightmare. It was so toxic that it didn't just kill the stuff on the hull, it poisoned the water around the ship, killing and deforming other marine life. As this quote shows, the effects were horrifying, and TBT was, thankfully, banned worldwide by the early 2000s. So this environmental crisis was a huge turning point. For the most part, the shipping industry went back to using the old, reliable copper-based paints, but the whole disaster kicked off this massive wave of research into finding smarter and much safer ways to keep hulls clean without just dumping poison into the ocean. And that push for safer solutions has led us to some pretty incredible new technology that goes way beyond just a simple coat of paint. The future is so cool. It's less about poisoning marine life and more about outsmarting it with physics and biology. One approach is creating these super slick silicone coatings that are just too slippery for anything to grab onto. Another amazing field is biomimetics, where we're literally designing surfaces that copy nature, like creating a texture that mimics shark skin, which naturally stays clean.
And we're even starting to move beyond coatings entirely. I mean, why rely on a passive paint when you can actively clean the hull? There are now fleets of underwater robots, almost like Roombas for ships, that constantly scrub hulls to keep them perfectly smooth. It boosts efficiency and has minimal impact on the environment.
So, what does this all mean? Well, that iconic red bottom has this incredible history, born from chemistry and necessity. But its days might just be numbered. As we sail into this new era of clean shipping, with robots and coatings inspired by sharks, the color of a ship's hull is probably going to be decided by pure performance, not by tradition.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more How Meets History.